Are you an adventurer looking to take your hunt to the next level? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to East Meets West Hunt with your host, Beau Martonik.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the East Meets West Hunt podcast presented by onX. On this episode, I am joined by the Johnny Stewart, Steve Sherk, and Bill Thompson of Spartan Forge. These guys are some of the best big woods buck hunters that I know, and we are talking all about summer scouting. We discuss finding buck bedding in the summer, locating areas that hold bucks year round, using trail cameras, natural big woods food sources, the best locations for setting up mock scrapes, and much more. The onX Hunt app is your premier GPS hunting app that turns your phone into a working GPS. I utilize the different icons and colored waypoints to create an organizational system that is easy for me. Creating a system for you is critical to being the most efficient and effective. If you want to check out the onX Hunt app for yourself, head over to onxmaps.com and use the coupon code EMW to save 20%. Tethered is a company that is founded on the principles of educating the hunting community on saddle hunting while creating the most innovative, lightweight, safe products for saddle hunting. They have multiple saddle and accessory options to find the right system for your style of hunting. To learn more about tethered and saddle hunting, head over to tetherednation.com or visit one of the teach and train events, which the next one here is coming up this weekend in Boyne, Michigan at the Total Archery Challenge. You can get to feel the products, learn from the people that are creating it, and just make an educated decision on whether you think saddle hunting is right for you. Maven is building the highest quality optics at half of the price of the competitors through their direct-to-consumer business model. They want to create the best optics for the job, period. Their products are backed with a lifetime no-fault warranty and an incredible customer experience. The B3 8x30 binos are my go-to for all of my Eastern adventures. They are lightweight, good in low light, and give a crisp image all the way to the edges of the glass. You can use the coupon code eastmeetswest-gift for a free gift with any full-price optics order at mavenbuilt.com. Hunters require an accurate forecast of the best hunting days and the best hunting spots to save time on scouting and actually executing the hunts. The Spartan Forge outfitter utilizes years of military background and machine learning to pull from millions of data points to accurately predict deer movement, which includes from GPS data, 30 years of weather data, academic and state research. They're using science rather than someone's opinion to figure out the movement for your specific hunting area. You can use the code EastMeetsWest to save 25% off of the outfitter at SpartanForge.ai. On this week's Mountain Buck Story of the Week, or otherwise known as Mountain Buck Monday on social media, this story comes from CJ Jenkins. CJ says, I came up to Pennsylvania to hunt public land from Maryland after tagging out with my bow there so I could continue hunting the rut. About 3/4 of a mile off the access road in a creek bottom, I found a scrape line and a few rubs throughout. I'm a big scrape hunter during the rut. On day one, I saw a few does, and then on the morning of day two, I rattled in the split main beam fighter of a buck for a 15-yard shot. And this is an awesome buck, CJ. Really cool, has a lot of character to it, and definitely give you kudos for grinding it out and going to multiple states there during definitely a time of year that wears on you from hunting so hard. So congratulations on that. And if you have a mountain buck story you'd like to share, send me an email at beau@eastmeetswesthunt.com with, a good paragraph or so of a story and a couple photos to go along with it. All right, in other news, so I just mentioned I'll be at the Total Archery Challenge in Boyne, Michigan this upcoming weekend here. So I'll be there with the Prime Archery crew doing some podcasts, doing some shooting. I'm really looking forward to this event. I'm not looking forward to the 10-hour drive after work on Friday, but I am looking forward to the event. So if you're there, stop by and say hello. I'd love to get to talk to some people from Michigan up there. And last week, the Mountain Buck Scouting video series, a new video came out on my YouTube channel. which is just under my name, Beau Martonik. It's all about early season whitetail hunting and scouting. So this is another episode. It's about, I don't know, about 20 minutes long or so. So they're a little bit longer than the ones I did last year, but hopefully you're filled with a lot of some examples and data that you can use to help formulate your own plan. Which again, just my opinions based off of my experience and knowledge there. So take that as you will. And lastly, I just want to say thanks again to everybody for the support. The podcast is continuing to grow, and definitely everyone's loving the whitetail content and the big woods type stuff here. So I'm just lucky that I got some really good guests on, and that they're performing to your guys' liking. So if you ever have any suggestions as far as guests or different content, definitely send me an email. Again, my email is just beau@eastmeetswest-gift.com. That's the best way for me to respond in a timely manner. So send that over. Would love to hear from you. And then just head over to eastmeetswest-gift.com. Check out everything there. Have a bunch of apparel, some other things. So would love the support, and again, just greatly appreciate it. So with that being said, let's go right into the podcast here with Johnny Stewart, Steve Sherk, and Bill Thompson. All right, we're live. We're up at, what do you call your camp here, Sherk?
Sherk's Camp.
Sherk's Camp. Yep. That's a really unique name, but
easy to remember.
Yep. So we're up at Steve Sherk's camp, and I'm joined by Bill Thompson, the Spartan Forge, and there's Bill cracking it open, and the Johnny Stewart. What's going on, guys?
How's it going, buddy?
Getting ready to talk deer and drink beer.
Yeah, we
Thank God we're here.
we've done a fair amount of bullshitting to this point, and had a really good dinner. Steve, You killed it with some cooking there.
The caribou too. That was amazing.
That caribou was awesome.
John,
Cheers to Beau's uncle.
Yeah, or no, it's
Well, I thought you said
my
your
uncle's father-in-law.
killing it.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry.
I killed it.
Yeah. But you didn't make that sausage.
No, I did not make that sausage. I can't take that. My uncle's father-in-law.
Yeah, it was excellent.
So, Woody, thank you for that. Johnny, you brought a couple bags of chips that haven't been pulled out of the truck yet, but you've been putting
Quite
it
the
in.
contributor.
Yeah.
Beer's cold, and
Thanks,
I'm ready to talk deer hunting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though it's May.
Is it? Yeah, it is May, isn't it? When this releases, it'll be in June. But it was good to get everybody together. And yeah, Bill, thanks for the White Claws here. And you guys, you have Yingling. Steve's got the Red's Hard Apple Ale. Johnny's got some
Cold
Yingling.
beer.
Cold beer. Just having. It's kind of weird being in a hunting camp in the summertime. Isn't
Yeah, I kind
But
of like it though.
It's got that vibe. It's good.
Oh, yeah. It's especially in the big woods.
What'd you think, Johnny, walking in, seeing Steve's?
Oh, man, it's
Moving there.
awesome. All them deer heads. We didn't get to indulge much. Maybe after the podcast,
He
we'll
told
go
me I
through
couldn't
them one
take
at a
any
time.
pictures because most of them are poached. So No, I'm just joking, folks. You didn't say that.
But no, it's a cool little camp.
It's
got a lot
awesome.
of big deer, and I'm sure there's a lot of stories we need to. Might not even get another probably after the podcast.
We'll
Start
have to have
talking
you guys
deer.
back or something.
It'd probably be midnight by the time we get done.
I'm getting you home before midnight. I gotta
Well,
get up.
I might not-
Some of us work. I gotta get up in the morning.
I might not leave.
We can sleep 20 here, by the way. So
My goodness.
Holy cow!
we got a whole loft up there.
Really?
Whoa.
Yeah,
Yep.
this place is primo.
Yeah, we'll have to go check out we're above the garage. We're in the
It's all
garage.
sleeping above the garage, the whole way across.
It's a nice little camp. How old is this, Steve?
Oh, geez, it's back in the 70s. So before I was born, it was my. It started out as a camp, and then my grandfather lived here for quite some time, and then when he passed, we just kept it deer camp. So it's like I said, since probably mid-70s, this place has been going on.
What are those deer? The deer in the front foyer looks like it was mounted in the 70s.
Yep, I think it was, that one's probably early to mid-80s was my grandfather's, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
That was big for then, huh?
Oh, God, it was huge. Yeah. Like I told Bill, I mean, I wouldn't say we got the biggest deer here because some of them are pretty old, but years ago, like 100-incher was like a wall hanger, you know?
Now, for context, Steve said that to me while we were staring at a 170-inch deer.
Yeah.
They had hanging on a post there, so don't let the modest man here fool you, gentlemen and ladies. He's a killer.
Yeah, back in those days, like Beau even probably remembers, he was just a little bow tyke. 120s were big bucks,
they were dandies.
Oh, yeah. My dad has some mounted that he's actually removed from the wall because it's like, and he actually took a couple of them and he removed they were getting kind of worn anyway, so he removed the hide and used that form again mounted a couple of his own deer.
That's a good idea.
To reuse them. He's it's kind of funny, but he's like, he was like, this deer in 92 won the big buck contest. He's like,
Absolutely.
and it's a 105-inch deer or 110-inch deer maybe.
wow.
I was like, things have just changed. So,
I've honestly been tempted, like some of mine, I know they're good memories, but it's like really not that big of a buck nowadays. Maybe I should just take it down. You know, it's just not, and it doesn't really matter, but it's just like, it's amazing how things have changed. That's for sure.
I think the mounts are more for
The stories.
the stories.
Yep,
Say,
that's a
even
great
like you
point.
said, Steve, it wasn't big, but it's like, and you put yourself back. When I look at one on a wall, I'm like, I put myself back in that day that I shot it, and it's the story behind it, you have. So
That's a great point.
But yeah, I know people are like, I know guys that took the sewing apart and put bigger horns in there and kept them out and stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Save a little money.
Yeah, and then you could still hang them like Steve has some of the ones on the wall here that are just the skull plate and stuff too, and that's cool to even look at and be like, looking at those stories on the back of the garage wall and everything. And Johnny, when you get your mounts moved to your camp?
Oh shit, Beau! I got to get it done first. I've been working too much and haven't been up there, but probably this summer. Just
Now, will you move all of them, or will you decide? Like ones you'll
I'm
keep
probably
at the
going to
house?
I'm going to interview them and see which ones want to go north to the new residence and see which ones want to stay.
They haven't been responding to the surveys.
I'm probably going to take them all, and I got to. I'm probably going to take them all. I don't want to split them up. They're a family now.
If it's a big woods camp, they all deserve to be there.
I'm putting them all up there, yeah. So, but I'm excited to get it done and.
See, I only get one or two I can keep in the house, and the rest have to go in the garage.
That's why you need a camp.
Sooner than later.
Yep.
One of these days.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
So that's the reason I'm building my camp. Is
Place
because
for your deer heads.
and all my hunting stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, my girlfriend's like, she's not at my house right now. She's living back at her house, and she's like, I sent her a picture of my caribou on the wall. She's like, oh, more to the museum. She's like,
That's not a good thing.
another dead animal in the house. I'm like,
Get used to it, baby.
I know.
That's
So
either
yeah,
a hint or a fight.
I know. I was like, I need to build a garage that's got high ceilings that
well,
I
I
can
told
put
Beau
them
he
in.
can bring them up to my camp and visit with my heads. We'll just put a bunch on the wall. That's what I told him.
Yeah.
So have you lived with her through a November? Have you guys spent time through a November yet? Like, has she had to endure the suck?
Not at she wasn't staying at my place at that time frame. She's staying at her house.
She's lucky.
Steve and I were just going over, we were doing some summer scouting today, and we were going over in the military, we call them tactics, techniques, and procedures. So mine, in order to keep making sure that I have, as much time as possible in November to hunt, I will do anything I am asked at any time of the day, any day of the week, until the third week of October. And then I'm gone like a fart in the wind for a month.
Yeah.
And
so-
then, remember, it's all ammunition.
Yeah,
If she
it's all
says
ammunition.
anything.
So it's like, you want me to fix the deck? No problem, babe. I'll go fix the deck right now. I'm on the way to Home Depot. Fix the deck, refinish everything. And then what I do is I have a list on the fridge, and I'll have her make a list that we'll start the summer with. I get the list all done. Then she wants to take the list down and start another one. I said, no. Get another piece of paper, put it right next to that one. We start the new list. Then when I'm not around for anything in the third to fourth week of November or October into November, I keep the list up there to remind her
Nice.
This is what's
because I am a ghost.
Beau, you
That-
taking notes?
I'm gonna have to because, everybody's got wives, fiancés, girlfriends here, and I'm learning. You know, I'm getting into this process.
You're always going to be learning, whether it's in a woman woods or the deer woods.
Luckily, I don't think. Luckily, I don't think any of them listen to this. To listen to the podcast. I know my girlfriend doesn't listen to mine.
Mine's never listened to one.
Yeah, she don't care, but because she's like, I'd love it if you were like doing more, projects around. She don't even live with me, but she's she's kind of like doing this test of like what I'm going to do.
Yep.
So now I'm like doing projects at my house that I don't even care about because I don't care where.
Yeah,
what I
get
live.
used to it, man.
And so I'm doing them now, like, and that's why I was talking to Steve earlier. I was like, okay. With turkey hunting, I had to kind of take a little bit of a break from it this year because I got turkey hunting a little bit, but that's not as important to me as deer hunting, and that's where I want to spend my time out. So now, I'm working more hours at my job, doing more for my business, doing more stuff at home, getting that stuff out of the way so I get that time, later, and it's, more guilt-free because, believe it or not, I feel guilty sometimes.
Whoa.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I just keep those lists on the fridge. And then when I get home at night after like my third consecutive rut hunt, and she's, dying with the kids at home and asking me how my day's been, I just point to the list on the fridge and say, "See all that? I did all that for you."
I don't know if
I don't say that.
Yeah, okay. I was going to
the
say
list up there.
I don't know if I'm going to take that tactic back.
I do leave the list.
He just highlights the
I
list.
do leave the list up there, and the list does not come down.
Laminated.
Make sure you put a check on every one
and a
of them.
check on everything you get done.
Yep.
Going back to the camp. So the camp I bought, and I put a big addition on, and my fiance, she said, "Wow, it's going to be bigger than our house." I said, "And it's going to be nicer than our house." I said, "Well, when you come up, I want you to be comfortable." It's weird. It's like
you need her to be comfortable when you're not around.
Exactly. When you're there and I'm out in the woods, you've got to be comfortable. It's got to be nice, and it can't be like an outhouse and stuff. So yeah, it's going to be pretty, and it is going to be pretty extravagant for a camp. So that's my excuse.
Yeah, that's good.
It's for you. I do all this for you.
You don't even enjoy it.
She's like, "You're not going to come home, are you?"
I built this in the middle of the Allegheny for you.
Yeah.
That's where you want to be. She's like,
Right.
"No."
You're going to have to put, she likes working out. You're going to have to put some gym equipment in
that's
there.
yeah.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Hanging deer
We could
heads
do
is
that.
good exercise.
Hanging the deer heads.
It's a lot of work.
Skinning deer
Yeah.
is good workout.
Dragon deer.
Dragon deer is even
She's like, "I'm not going to come up. You're going to be up there in November with all your buddies." I'm like, "You can come up." She's like, "I don't want to be up there with all those guys." Well, then that's when you can come up in the summer and enjoy it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Give me an excuse to.
Besides, we're in the summer and we're at another camp with guys. No, but
She's like, "I ain't going to be up there much. You're going to be without guys up there." Like, no, that's not true.
Meanwhile, Beau's living up there.
Yeah. Oh, who's this? That's caretaker.
Don't worry about him.
hey.
Is that your caribou head? No, it's Beau's.
right above his bed.
He's Airbnb in it. Yeah. But anyway, so we're in the middle. Well, we're at the beginning of summer, I guess I should say here, and I think on most people's deer aren't really on the mind, but I think with all of us sitting here, deer don't really ever leave our minds most likely. So
Sure.
I kind of want to start out with you, Steve. What are you doing during the summertime? What are you doing to keep your deer itch going on?
I mean, it's just all about, to me, seeing what's still out there, or what's growing into what you're hoping it's going to be. I've been, running mineral sites, getting them going, mock scrapes. Luckily, like I said, my son's been really into it lately. So,
Yeah.
When there might be more important things to do around the house, he's been kind of saving me a little bit, telling Mom that that's what we should be out doing instead. So
Nice. You got him trained right.
yeah, honestly, I didn't even really train him.
That's good.
But no, so that's been pretty good. Yeah, just excited to see what's going to be available this year. I mean, I know some particular deer that made it, but you don't really know like what they're going to bloom into yet. So
it's velvet time is exciting to see
so,
that.
No, that's basically what I've been, getting into quite a bit now. So just super excited, that's for sure.
Yeah. What about? So I've been seeing on Instagram, you've been talking quite a bit about finding bucks bedding areas right now in the summer. And I'll be honest, that's not something that I've done to this point, but I'm super interested in kind of hearing about that and what the importance of it that you see kind of as you move forward. And I know you've done this for years, so just kind of talk a little bit about that.
Even when I took Bill to a spot today, some certain clear cuts and bedding areas that, sometimes we think that, all bucks shift like during that, we call it the late summer shift, early fall shift, but really not all of them do. Some of them still stick around, and I'm trying to learn more about bucks that I think are going to be staying in those bedding areas. Trying to find the entry and exit routes, or is there certain conditions when they're moving more or less? I still think in some bedding areas, like I said, you can still learn a lot this time of year. And, so that's kind of what I've been focusing on. Like I posted something the other night, like this one buck, he seems to come out of this clear cut like almost within the same 10 minutes almost every day. Especially if he beds in this one particular bed, he's been coming out like 640 to 650 like every time. And I thought that's just like so neat. Like obviously they don't have like a real clock like us, but they must have like some like internal clock. Now's the time to get up and go out and feed, and so there's still a lot to learn this time of year. Yeah. And, I know there's a lot of other things that you can be doing, but I don't know if you're so passionate like us, it's hard to ever leave the deer woods.
Yeah. Well, so do you find that some of those deer keep those bedding areas into the fall, or do you find some of them shift? Like, what do you kind of?
I mean, it all depends on the habitat. If that bedding area has food and cover that's going to be available, early in bow season, it should be bow season, there's a good chance they'll stick around. I think it also depends, though, like on, the other bucks living in that area, too. Like sometimes, maybe not the biggest buck is the most dominant buck, and like I might have my eye on maybe the bigger one, but somehow he gets pushed off, but maybe one of the lesser bucks is just lesser maybe in size is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But, I find, honestly, a lot of bucks, if it's the right habitat, the right amount of browse, the right cover, they'll stay there till like mid-October.
Yeah, I've noticed that at least a lot of the pictures that you've been posting seem to be around some of those clear cuts that are, at least 3 years old, kind of a little bit older, that have that cover. They've got that browse still. They've got everything that are mixed into it.
And I mean, I'll be honest, it's probably, like every hunter, I think we all have a few things that we keep to ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's okay if we talk about it on here, but
look out, he spilled the beans.
You put 2-3 beers in me and see what happens.
Is that the plan?
Ladies and gentlemen, he's on number 6.
But anyways, I do think that the younger clear cuts, not that I know, like the reason why a deer's not going to leave a younger clear cut versus an older clear cut as much is because the younger one's going to have way more food. And even, going into like early October, a lot of that browse is still available. So there really wasn't much reason for him to leave from the summer even till early in the archery season until, he starts to get more of that rutting urge, and then he'll start to leave that bedding area and roam around.
And when you say young clear cuts, you're talking 2 to 3 years?
Yep, even some are 5 or 6. It's another thing, like so many people ask me, like, what's the perfect age of clear cut? But at least around here, I see some like grow differently. I don't know if it's acid rain or it's just like you have to just
how the sun hits it or what's in the soil and
exactly.
Some are, it might be the same age, but then you're like, this is like a ghost town where that other one got all kind of variety of habitat. But that's a good point you made. Like I noticed in my years of running cameras how he said that the older deer might not be the dominant, to where it seems like every year when you start into that summer, maybe a buck was living there, but maybe something else moved in. It seems like you're always jockeying for position and where they want to be in their pick, but maybe this one's more aggressive and push this guy out. So it's neat to see going through the summer when you're running them mineral licks. It might be like, because I've had experiences where like, oh, this is where the big bucks are hitting this mineral lick, and then it's like they're gone from there.
Yeah,
or another deer moved in. It's just every year, I think, once they get through the breeding, they start into summer. It's like, okay, we know who's left in a herd. We know who got killed. And this guy's growing up, and he's got a little more testosterone. He's sticking his chest out. And as you go through the year, yeah, it's always evolving. But I think once you get through the breeding season, you start living. They start living through the next year, knows who's there, and maybe, bacheloring up with other bucks. But it always, going through the summer, I feel, is when, you run them cameras and you'll see, how the things changed, and there is no hunting pressure to change it. It's like the age structure and, the testosterone in the deer. Well, there's not so much that time, but, just where they choose to live and who's more dominant. And it's always, as you get into next fall, how things slowly change every year, not just the habitat, but the deer and the population of the deer, their age and
personality.
Yeah, the testosterone goes up, and then.
But that's a big thing going into summer is something's changing, in the herd, and you might not see the same deer, because there's one year I had a couple licks and going into fall, and I'm like, oh man, I'm pretty sure the deer made it. And the next year I run the cameras and them licks, and I'm like 95% sure them deer made it, and they weren't there.
They didn't show up. Yep.
But they moved on. Maybe someone pushed them out, or I even found deer would move in, and I think the pressure through the hunting season was just too much for them, and they toughed it out through the season. But like it's next year, I'm not going with that again. I got to get out of here. And I've seen that happen. They stake their claim through the breeding season, and then next year they're like, F this, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm going to go find greener pastures. It's just too much.
And that could be too. Like it might even be food related. There could just been better habitat another mile away this year.
Or maybe like an acorn crop or something else that can shift it. That's, and I don't know about you guys, but I've found that at least in the areas that I have that don't have any oaks or acorns are more consistent year after year, or
that's a good point.
Just because there's not that mass crop that can fluctuate that food source. I know when I hunted an area that was like primarily hardwoods, oaks I'd find sign in the spring that would be like up on the top, that was because it was a good acorn crop the year before. The next year it wasn't, and they moved to a completely different area.
There's no reason for those deer to be there.
There was no reason for them to be there. Yeah. But then when you get an area that was mixed with clear cuts and all these different ages and different vegetations, now you start getting more consistent year after year. Eventually things change, but it seems to be a little bit more consistent that way.
Oh, I see that too.
From what I've found, but a chipmunk just ran by. But one thing I do want to say here just before we go any further is, so if, you hear us talking a little bit about mineral sites and stuff, mineral sites are only legal in certain places depending on what type of public land they are. So just know your stuff.
Absolutely.
We're speaking of this because we know that, and you can't obviously hunt near a mineral site. There's a lot of things that go into that. I'm not going to go into the technical details of it, but just note that, because Steve and I talk about that. I've talked about that before offline, and it's
I've had people like email me saying I'm going to report you, or listen, I know where I can put a mineral lick and where I can't.
Internet police.
Yeah.
And with mineral licks, I even noticed in some places, I don't know, to me it comes down, so some of the areas I hunt in Pennsylvania are kind of populated with hunters. Mm-hmm. The pressure's there. That's not an area always that you can get away from the pressure and away from the roads, but there's enough cover for these deer to get away, and I'll run these mineral licks. And to me, it has to do with the pressure, but I feel some of these older bucks kind of steer clear of some mineral licks. I mean,
no doubt.
I'll run these cameras, maybe one on a lick and one just satellite in the area around, and you get that big buck, he just comes by. And I'm like, you know what I mean? So this year I'm trying to run some separate mineral licks further away from the road with just salt, maybe something. Yep. I'm wondering if maybe the scent of the licks that you can get, maybe they associate that with hunters, or maybe it's just the deer that have been using that are the younger 2-year-olds, yearlings, and does. Maybe they don't really want to mess with that, but it's kind of I don't know what it would be, whether it's the pressure. They associate that with humans, and they just, something tells them to stay away, where the younger deer gravitate toward, or they just are other like they are. But so this year we kind of run one lick with scent, whatever apple scent or whatever the shit that comes with it, attract them, and then we went a couple 100 yards and just put straight salt. Just kind of experiment, because I'm thinking maybe, they might associate that scent or that mineral with humans.
Yeah.
And you get them 5-6-year-old deer, they don't want to mess. But then there's some licks I got over off the beaten path with the smell and that, and they're hitting it, So
yeah, I've seen that in the GPS data where, depending on the time of the year, just certain deer just won't tolerate other deer.
Yep.
Like certain bucks just don't want to be. Yeah. Usually it's the older ones, but to them it's kind of like you're all easy targets. Yep. So if you guys are going somewhere, I'm not going to go there because I'm not, I'm not the rest of you.
You're right.
And I don't know if it's the testosterone or just, it's a learned or a patterned behavior that they've evolved. I'm not a biologist, so I can't speak to that, but I certainly can say what I see in the data. And, I kind of made a joke one time when I get new GPS data. We just got a ton, actually, of Pennsylvania data. And another great thing that I got
ended up getting the Pennsylvania data?
Yeah, from another source. But then I also got live Pennsylvania data.
Okay.
So this is it's Pennsylvania data from a military base where they've tagged all these deer in this area. And so I can go on there any time and see just where the deer are on the ground and, what they're doing. And there certainly seems to be that certain bucks just won't tolerate other deer. And I always make the joke. I actually made it with Steve today, but it's like, you get the Chuck Norris of deer, and he, all the other deer see you could think of it like humans. Humans, 95% of humans, they see a bunch of cheeseburgers in the woods somewhere.
Oh, here, yeah.
They're going to try to go get a cheeseburger. But that Chuck Norris deer, he's not going anywhere near any of them because he's not going to be the one to get a bullet in the dome.
Hey, Bill, we got to get back to the biologist. I mean, like a biologist is here. You're like...
I'm nowhere near
You're like
that.
a sliver. No. You're like a cunt hair below the biologist. You know what I mean? I mean, you're like right there.
Technically.
I mean, like, when you talk, I'm like, I know a lot about deer, but I'm like, God damn.
So, for me, it's like, I was just telling Steve this again today when we were scouting. For me, when I get new GPS data, it's like pulling the meta SD card. Yeah. Like I'm getting, 7-8 years of deer data.
But you look at a biologist, how do they know but by studying deer?
Because they're actually out there observing the behavior. I'm just looking at the GPS points on a map.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. That's behavior that you're learning from 8 years in data points, and you look at what's in that area, and it's the same thing they're doing.
Yeah, maybe. But, I think there's a little more rigor in what they're doing. But regardless, when I get that data, I immediately sort it. I look for the most mature animals, whether it's does or bucks. And it's just, I've said it before, but it's kind of like when they hit 3.5 years, there's like this mental maturity that happens, and they just, instead of running with everyone else, it's like they separate out, or at least, unless they're not pressured at all, then they can maybe stay longer. But if the pressure's there, it's like they separate off, and they're like, all right, I'm not going to be with the rest of this herd because the rest of this herd's going to get one in the boiler room at some point.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
And then the other interesting thing I see in this data is, and Johnny just said it, and it's, I didn't know any of this until I was pulling the GPS data. These bucks will just wind these areas, and they'll go nowhere near them. Mm-hmm. They'll just go there when they'll go, these 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old bucks. I've always talked about this. I've talked about it before, but in this Louisiana study that I saw, this buck was like a 7-year-old buck, a 140 class buck, which down there was pretty big, maybe 150, I don't remember. But all he would do is wind these spots. And if you didn't have a camera somewhere else besides on these bait piles, you'd never know that deer was there. And then you'd see him one day on stand, and you'd be like, oh, there's a traveler or a new buck or like a buck I've never seen before. Meanwhile, he's bedding, 70 yards downwind of your stand. And he knows exactly when you're there, and he knows exactly when you don't,
Yeah. No, that's so true, too. And, those deer they don't get that old by being the same as anybody else.
Yep.
Right. There's times when you'll find an old deer, and you might get it down to where, man, I know where he's bedding. I know where he's wanting to go to feed and this and that, and then you kind of know everything you need to know about him to hunt him, and then you start strategically finding your stand location. Then you realize there is no stand location because he got all all bases covered as far as exit point where he's bedding the wind. He got all these things in his odds, and there's many times I wanted to cry. I know this deer lives, and I know where he's at. I'm like, I can't even hunt him.
Yep.
It's not even possible.
That's why
I
he's
said
there.
he's got everything in his odds. He don't take any chances. It's like,
Yep.
It's like we're repeating the conversation that
I
we
know,
had
it's
earlier
all-
today.
yeah.
As we were walking around the woods today, I was telling him I got to go to an area where it was near Moyock, North Carolina, where I'd pulled some data, or I'd gotten some data. And then I called the guy. I was down there for like a weapons course. And I called the guy and said, hey, I'd like to look at this place where we got data from. And he had a few mature bucks in this data, and it was like a hunting club. And all I wanted to do was just go walk these areas where it seemed like these bucks frequented, these really mature bucks. And there was one particular point that was like, it was a point near a swamp, and it was reminiscent of a spot that Steve just showed me today. And when I got in there and saw exactly where he was hanging out, I'm like, there's no way to kill this deer.
yeah, that's the truth.
There's just not a way
That's
to
the honest to God's truth. You get to that
know it.
point.
You get like hairs on the back of your neck stand up because you get in there and you're just like, this buck, whether he knows it or it's instinct or whatever, it's just, I couldn't kill this buck if I wanted to. Like people talk about like, not to insert my obligatory, product advertisement. People like, Spartan Forge, I think might be telling people too much about deer. And it's like, the more and more I see mature buck data, that what it's made me realize is how woefully undermatched we are.
Yep.
Like we are just, these animals have us beat, especially the mature ones.
It's-
And we'll only get a
that's the
kill
truth.
when they screw up.
Well, you're talking about those almost like unkillable spots. My Uncle Francie, which you know him, Johnny, he was hunting this buck that was just awesome last year, and he saw him twice, but he goes, I had to stop hunting the area because the wind would never be consistent. No matter what, it was always shifting. And that buck, he actually saw him twice, and he winded him both times. He's like, he goes, it would just flip all the time, and that's why he was living there. And he's like, I don't know what to do. Like it's so difficult, and that's why
You need a lot of different areas to hunt or different deer to hunt, because you'll start hunting one deer, and then before you know it, he's onto you like you think you're onto him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So sometimes I don't take chances when I'm hunting. Like the deer don't take chances. If they smell, it's like, okay, I'm not going that way. There's a hunter there. So like when I'm hunting, sometimes you're like, oh, the wind come over the back of my neck this way, and I think that's where he's at. So I might hang out. Then I'll leave that spot because I don't want to. You know what I mean? Where guys will stay in the same spot. Maybe I'll move 100 or 200 yards to get a different look, a different area to where, and he's still there. It takes a lot to actually move. He lives there for a reason, to get him to move like a mile away or not. He's just going to, avoid that like the plague where you were. But you always got to have a couple of different spots to hunt one deer or a bunch of different deer to hunt, because there's so many times that you find those deer that you can't get into them. Yep. So a lot of times you are going to take a little chance. You got to give a little bit, but to them, because you're not going to have everything in your favor when you're hunting them big deer. So you got to give them some odds. You're going to have to, and that means you taking chances, whether it's getting in before daylight or you're always walking that fine line, because you have to. That's where you have to hunt to kill these mature deer, and so you got to, and you're going to mess it up. You're going to, if you hunt enough, because you have to take some risk, and there's, risk equals reward, but there's times it comes together. But that's why you got to have a bunch of different deer or different areas to hunt, because you got to give them the odds. But then again, if you got a lot of deer to hunt, you find the one that gives you the best odds. Like, man, because I know that one deer Beau was hunting years back. What was that? What'd you have? Hercules. I'm like, I have a feeling. Beau, I'm behind you 110%, but this nomad, this deer, just I don't know if anybody could even kill him. You know what I mean? He's like so random and stuff like that. I'm like, you know more about this deer than any human, and your chances.
And he knows more about me than anything else. Like
your chances are nil. So I'm like, and I hope to God. Honestly, that's the truth.
Yeah,
I mean, it was like Rocky IV. This guy's gonna kill you, man.
But that's the honest to God's truth. Some of them deer you get to, and their acts are pretty random. And
you talk about that a lot. You talk about that a lot. You go, I might have the biggest deer on camera, but this one that I'm just as happy with is more killable, and you tend to hunt.
You know you can kill.
Yeah, you say. I know you say that quite a bit.
I honestly believe there's bucks out there, except maybe during the rut. I think every buck during the rut has a few days where if you're in the right spot, he's on a hot doe, you can kill him. But other than that, I think there's bucks outside of the rut. You waste your whole season on them.
You could waste just because of that rat. Like when he hunted at Hercules, he was showing me some areas where he hunted, and it was just such randomness. And it's almost like you're chasing your tail, and you're never going to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's true.
Remember,
I felt for him. He was
spread out so far. I'd get him one day, 2.5 miles. This was during the rut at this point, but 2.5 miles over here, and then I'd get him another mile in the other direction, literally within 24 hours. And he was covering ground, and he was so. There was only I had one chance, and I shot and I hit him in the leg, but that was the only chance I ever had at that deer. And after that, it was just like, well, then he was definitely on to me. But
then he disappeared. But no, that's the truth. There's some deer, if you get enough of them, you can find, like, I think I can kill this deer. I kind of know him, but them other ones are like, I have no idea.
I have no problem. Like, when I think of big bucks, mature bucks, I literally get down on one knee and tip my hat off. Like, I don't ever look at like I'm more capable of killing you than you getting away from me. Like, that's how I look at mature deer. Like, if I get an opportunity, that makes my whole season, because I just am hoping one time maybe outsmart them for once. That's just how amazing animals that they are.
Or get lucky.
Yeah, I'll take luck.
Oh man,
luck over skill any day of the week.
Any day, give me that luck. I'll take it.
I'll take the luck, but I don't ever depend on luck, because it seems. But really, like after what we just talked about with Beau hunting his deer, maybe you just pick a random tree and go sit in it, and you might get lucky. But honestly, there's many ways to look at it. You could be like, I could do all this time scouting and be in the right spot and this and that, and it's like, he's such a random animal. I might as well just get in the goddamn tree and sit there and hope he comes by. You know what I mean? But I can't hunt like that, you know. But that's the truth.
Yeah, I knew that was one thing that you two would be very similar on, because I've heard both the hunting the deer that you know the most about, and that you with that 8-point last year, you had him freaking pinned down, and you had the opportunity, and then did the wind shift or something happened? But
and you know what? I had a tarsal gland from my buddy's deer, and I took it down in the woods. That was November 1st, 2nd, we had that snow?
Yeah.
5th or 4th, somewhere in there.
2nd or 3rd, we got the first snow.
First week in November.
Yeah, so he was on a mineral lick in the summer, and then he went and hit this clear cut, and he started rubbing it up in October. Then guys seen them rubs, and they started pounding that, and then he moved to another area, and I just kind of followed him with my cameras. You know, he's been there for a few years, and then I kind of knew where he was going to breed these does, so I got in there before daylight. Got up in a tree. I looked over my shoulder. There's a doe. He's right behind her. Oh. But I put the tarsal gland like 10 feet from him. You know, and he's kind of, whether he tended that doe or bred her or I don't know what was going on, but they were both feeding, and he was right behind her. And then the wind shifted, and I actually think that tarsal gland just hit him right in the face, and he was like, whoo, he snorted and ran.
Wow.
My opinion, I mean,
I bet
ain't no way he could have smelled me.
No.
I mean, you know what I mean? Ain't no way he could have smelled me.
No, that Jeep lives COVID in there. I don't even know how.
My old lady tells me, you smell like earth. All your clothes. And I said, well, you know, I got them earth wafers. I work in the dirt
yeah.
That's why I got an excavation business. Right, I'm out in the dirt all day, so I can smell like the earth. That's what.
And Steve's got a landscaping business, so he's in
the
you know what I'm saying?
Here it comes.
Sal, the trick is you don't even know anything about deer. You got to work in the right industry.
Yep.
I work in graphite. It smells terrible. It's dirty. Deer don't like
bullets
graphite.
and arrows.
Yeah,
they're gonna run from there.
They're gonna run.
Yeah, yeah, exactly right. I do want to shift back a little bit to a topic we talked about 15 minutes ago. And we were talking about mineral sites, and what I've found is like. I don't know if I know the answer to this, but some mineral sites are so productive for me, and then there's other areas in general that don't matter what I put out. It's just they're not that good. Mm-hmm. Do you? Let's start with you, Steve. Do you have any spots like that, or any insight on why that might be?
Like I although it might seem like the summertime, the deer are spread out, but I still find the bucks, a lot of the most mature bucks and best bachelor groups, wherever like the most available browse is. That's where I find them. And then I also see issues like with water, like right now till about, sometime in July, it's pretty consistent, but a lot of times every year I'll have bucks kind of leaving my mineral sites kind of later in the year for a while. And then I see like some cameras like down near water, like down lower in in the valley streams, then they seem to turn on.
Yep.
So really, I just think this time of year, you got to be where the most available browse sources are. Big woods, I'm talking.
Yeah.
And then, if things dry up, then I really think water becomes even more important then too. At least that's what I see.
Yeah. What about you, John?
I do like running minerals with water in mind, whether it's a creek or, just because but they do get some water from the plant life. But like we had some dry weather here the last few weeks, so being near water. But there's times I found mineral licks. Sometimes I run in new areas. It might not be in a clear cut, maybe satelliting, but still they're traveling through, and some will just be like hot, like you'll show up and maybe I like putting them out around March, April, and when it seems like they start hitting them, and some of them will be just like, wow, look at the hole they dug in the ground, and other ones are just like, got 20 pictures, and your minerals are still laying on top of the ground.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know and it's not like I'm putting them I know there's deer in the area, so I don't know if it is something in the dirt that helps them, be attracted to your minerals. I try to stay away from hemlocks. I don't know if you do, Steve. I try to keep them. I don't know. Like as far as
I have found that I have a spot, actually one that is active that I run, and I'm like, they gotta be next to the water and stuff, but it's all hemlocks around. And that was something you said when we were driving in. We were looking at a clear cut up on the side of the hill, and he's like, man, all that sunlight getting there, and that'd be a really good summertime spot, good mineral, type spot. And that's kind of in just what you said.
And I can get back on that too if we want to talk about like soils and that. I've found like it's got to be like a clay type soil.
Yeah,
if
try
you're
to get
go
through
into the ground.
I try to get through the root hairs. You'll get all them roots and that. I get a hammer, or sometimes I get a stick and I dig. Usually it's my
bring
nails.
A hammer,
a claw hammer to get through.
There you go.
Intense.
Yeah.
You could delete that, Beau. I didn't want to. That was let's
trade caft.
Yeah. So, anyways,
and one other thing too is you can still put minerals in areas without like the best soil. And if you watch some of my pictures, you'll see some on stumps. If I like scrape the ground away and it's like real rocky or like sandy, I'll just look for a stump. Mm-hmm. So that's when I choose either a stump or
a rotted
soil.
stump.
I still prefer the ground, and it might just be like my own theory, or I just feel like some really bigger mature bucks like with the stumps. I don't know why, but they don't seem to stay there as long for me. But the ones in the soil, seems like I always get better pictures, or maybe the mineral sticks to the soil better, possibly.
Yeah,
drains into the soil.
Yeah, and they can eat it better. Like
I mean, when you talk stump, you mean more of a decomposed type,
not like
or
real
you mean
fresh,
more
like
woody?
Not rotted. But not like it seems like the real fresh. It washes off the stump.
You mean like a harder woody steel stump?
Yeah, like one that's probably been cut 4 or 5 years ago. Seems to be perfect. Where it's just slow, almost rotted, and they'll chew at that.
See, I always put it on like a rotted stump, like it turned to me. Well, I'm thinking turn into dirt,
or that it's porous. And it's absorbing minerals.
And that's probably
and
just
the
as
deer
good
get in there. Right.
I just know with the little bit harder stump, it seems like it lasts longer, but maybe the rotted stump you'll still dig into.
I'm just thinking like it's going to hold and turn to more dirt. I'm looking for, but you're right though. Yep. If it's rocky and sandy, I try to find some type of clay or dig through all that.
Yeah, and I've always just looked at stumps and just like I'll be like looking, and if there's not the perfect stump, I get upset for a second. Like I don't. That's just always the way. Like I've always put them on those older, like you said, like try to find them before they're like completely falling apart stumps. But there's some that I've had. I have a mineral site that's pretty old now that that stump is so long gone. and there's basically a lake that's down in there. That's so it's incredible, to be honest with you. It's pretty.
And another trick I've done this year, and I think it looks like it's working. I'm not going to say it's the best thing to do, but I've been hanging a licking branch above a lot of my mineral sites. Even though this time of year, from what I see, I don't think they're really peeing into the scrape anyway. But I'm getting them working the mineral site and hitting the licking branch, and it's just maybe a little bit of an added attractant to it.
Yeah, maybe a mature deer will want to hit that licking branch.
Just another idea you don't see much.
My understanding was, and I could be wrong about this again because I'm not a biologist, but my understanding was that like the scraping in the ground is to signal testosterone levels and their position in a particular dominance hierarchy, and the licking branch is deer identification.
That makes a lot of sense.
So they're not scraping throughout the summer because they're not trying to advertise their fitness for breeding, or their testosterone levels, right?
Yep.
They're not peeing on their tarsal gland.
It's more like a forehead gland, and that.
Whereas what they're doing with their forehead and the licking branches is just oh, that's Bob. That's
year-round
whoever.
stuff.
And I did a podcast with a biologist, Dr. Carl Miller, and he talked all about what?
Was his name Bill?
Not Bill, Dr. Carl Miller. And Carl had said that he was talking about the different. I asked him about every different gland on a deer and how they work and how they go. And he's talking about the forehead gland, is because you always see, like, I used to use preorbital gland scents a lot, which I think work really well. But he said I started buying forehead gland stuff because he said that's the most thing that they're rubbing on that, and that's the way of a really good communication tool. And I could be butchering exactly what he said.
Pointed to his eye for the
that's
preorbital.
the
Yeah, but for all you people listening, not visually, that we're just
that's a good point. Yeah, it's in the preorbital.
Someone might want to say, "Hey, what's
is in the corner of your eye where and again, none of us here are biologists, so go listen to that. Listen to that podcast. It was number 137, I believe.
None of us here are even close.
Yeah, I know, right?
None of us are even close to biologists.
Yeah. No.
But he's quoting the podcast number here. That's impressive.
Bunch of dumb rednecks, really, but but seriously, so that's I think what you're saying though is kind of in line with that.
Yeah, and it makes sense to me too. Like maybe as you guys were talking earlier about mineral sites, I was thinking to myself, maybe you shouldn't say anything because maybe you're about to say something obvious. They're going to look at you like, "Thanks, Bill. Thanks for that." But one of the things with mineral sites is like it seems to me that would have to do with the quality of the soil, right?
Yeah,
and what's growing in the area. So if you're putting a mineral site out in an area where historically it's not good soil, then you would expect more deer on that, right?
I don't know.
Or if you're putting it out in an area where the soil's really good.
Which one should we consult about that?
So this guy's crazy. So if it's getting put out in a spot though where the soil's good, there's the imperative isn't there because one thing I have read in the studies is that they have a mineral content they need to get to.
Oh, okay.
And it's something like 99% of deer will get to it one way or the other. And so when you see these companies, and I'm not speaking ill of anyone, you can use minerals to attract deer, no question. But when you see these mineral companies that are saying it's going to increase antler size, there's like good studies on this that shows it doesn't increase antler size. Because the deer will find the minerals. Like it's an attractant, and that's it.
I only use rock salt, so
right.
I mean just because I've believed in that as well too.
Yeah, but I mean, there's concrete evidence where they have like pen deer, right? And they're pen deer on one side with no salts, and pen deer on the other side with salt. And the pen deer on the other side get just the mineral content that the other ones do. They just get it in different places.
Yep.
So just because an easier way to get mineral content, it's not improving antler size.
Yep.
The last study that I read about this said the only thing it does do is it will increase the quality of mother's milk for the fawns. So the fawns could be healthier in areas.
I don't know, Bill. The pictures on the bag show different.
Monster Rack 2.0.
So is it better to have... So you say...
You don't need to talk so loud. Jesus.
Oh, sorry. A couple beers.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
So is it better to have poor soil with some good minerals?
If you want pictures, it seems.
And
that's what I mean.
When I say, I'm not saying
I could be wrong about all of this.
No, I think you're right about.
Because you were talking about clay.
Yeah, I'm not saying nutrients in the soil. Clay soil is just better to hold the salt in your minerals.
Right. Yeah.
Versus, if it's rocky, it's just going to wash right off.
Yeah.
But like what Bill's saying is like So if you do have a soil that's poor with minerals, is that a good spot to put your minerals?
Yeah, it seems like
attract
probably
them?
on a stump.
Or
it speaks, yeah.
too, if
or
it was
to-
real sandy soil or
Yep,
something.
yep,
Or is
exactly.
it good to have good soil and add your minerals?
Well, I mean,
Which, you know
ultimately,
what I
you
mean?
want good soil, right? Because it's going to create
That's
healthier
gonna,
deer.
yeah, that's going to create the browse and everything else.
Right, that's coming up. But if you're trying to get them to focus on, a particular mineral supplement, again, it seems like you might want to be doing that in areas where it's not so great. But
Well,
who knows?
One thing too, though, think of it this way: like today, I had sugar in my coffee. I had a brownie. I think deer also have like cravings like us, where they might be able to get nutrients out of browse and that, but like it's probably a different taste to go to that salt lick. Like
sure.
Something they crave.
we're all having a beer right
Yeah.
now. Like
Right.
there's a lot of the same nutrients in a lot of things we eat every day, but I think deer, the taste, and I notice it with my dog. You can see he'll have different cravings and different tastes. And
Yeah, like me
that's
with
the
Lay's
truth.
potato chips. I want that salt that's on
Yeah.
there. I want that where I can get food anywhere. I can eat food all day, but that I can't get that salt the way that is
Yeah.
off of it.
I think deer are like that
I think
too.
the one mineral we were talking about that I run every year. So like the deer will come by in a cycle. These bucks to where it's like,
yeah.
we need we're craving that, so we're going to go hit that.
Yeah.
And you might not. It's like 2 weeks they disappear, and it's like, it's kind of gravitate back toward there.
Yeah, now I'll really get out of my area of expertise and say I believe I've read that, when women are craving things when they're pregnant,
Yeah.
it's because they are low on a particular type of mineral
Yeah.
or sugar or something that would be present in the food that they need for the placenta for the baby.
Yep.
So now we're really outside of our zone of expertise. But
Yeah.
it makes sense. I'm just backing Steve's play here and say it
Yeah,
makes
you just
sense.
spoke to me in German there.
Right, exactly. Placenta? But
Well, I noticed that with deer, not just for minerals, but like there could be a particular apple tree, like in an apple orchard, that the deer, are hitting, or there's just I think when it's just a little bit different, sometimes it's a little more attractive, to deer rather than they're just munching on browse all day. I mean, yeah, they're surviving and getting great nutrients, but
maybe corn in the cornfield's not the best
yeah.
attracting.
How about, since we're talking about summer deer, how about like later in summer, maybe? Sorry, Bill.
Yeah, pull that up a little bit, John.
So like, browse is the majority, but like a soft mass, like apples and some type of fruit. But that's later. I mean, but there are some July apples.
Yep. Oh, no doubt. Yeah, they'll be
That's
dropping
another,
in July. Then you got cherries dropping in August.
Yeah, August.
Yep.
Up in
they'll
this
be
area.
pounding them. And I think, like, when that stuff first starts dropping, I always see it getting hit more than, like, later on. Like, I think it's like, oh, wow, I
We
haven't
haven't
had
had
that
this
for
in
a year. Yeah,
Yep,
exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that's
And,
when I noticed it.
Man, if I can find an area that holds the black cherries into the first week of October, they usually don't last very long
No,
in the
they
season.
don't.
A lot of times they're gone by then. But if I can find an area that gets that Buck Hercules you're talking about, that was the only time that I was able to consistently get daylight photos of him in the early season when there was a good black cherry crop, which I pulled my camera card after that was done, and we didn't have a crop like that again until he disappeared. So I never really got to.
So you never knew what happened with that deer?
No.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know. I really don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
So I guess I have a question about scouting. When you guys are doing your summer scouting, like, are you mostly, I suppose because it's big woods, are you guys mostly focusing on clear cuts? Like, is that the play as far as where you're putting cameras and where you're...
I think it's probably about 80% of that. I mean, I have a lot of areas that I hunt that there's not any clear cuts, but it just, to me, it seems like younger clear cuts tend to hold a lot of summer bucks.
And then
from
those
what I
big
see.
area places, you're focusing on topography, or what are you focusing on there?
Yeah, well, a lot of times water too. Like, not always way down in the bottom, but like I find a lot of bigger deer, especially in the summertime, will bed near like trickle streams coming off the mountains. I mean, if you think about it, if it's 80, 90 degrees every day, I think they're having a hard time going all day without a drink.
And there's probably minerals in there as well,
Yeah,
right?
that's
the trickle.
There probably
right.
could very well be.
Right.
Yeah.
So that would be something to key in on.
Also, being the springs, sometimes you get in low-lying areas that I look for, maybe I call them water weeds, that the deer will, maybe not so much in areas with clear cuts, but maybe in some bigger woods of maybe Ohio and that, if you can get near them springs and maybe down near the main stream, and they're going to be looking for water, but you'll start to get, it could be shady, so there's not much sunlight, but you get them water weeds, jewelweed or something.
Stinging nettle they eat a lot of.
Yeah, and you'll see them ate off and they get water. You'll find a little bit of a variety of plant life.
Yep.
So I even take that in consideration when I put mineral licks out. Maybe there's a spring with some, you get into summer where, maybe they want to get away from that dry wet, and it's like succulent, that has the water them weeds, have. So that's always somewhere to. But I always think, like, it's hot, they got to find water, and, how much water do they get when they're feeding in the clear cut?
Yeah, they might get some.
But I've seen deer, don't get me wrong, after a rain, there's a puddle on the ground. I've seen deer drink out of a stump. So it's like they don't need to go to but not saying they won't.
It's to answer your question about the clear cuts thing. So in the summer, I've tried so many different things, and mostly because a while ago I didn't think about it a whole lot. I just kind of either put mineral sites out or built scrapes or did anything in places, and definitely found inconclusive what these guys are saying. The clear cuts seem to be, especially those younger ones, that where the most browses or thickest, greenest, has some wetness to it. Like I've tried. I remember the one year I went completely. I was like, all right, these tops suck because it was I thought it was dry or whatever. I'm like, I'm gonna run nothing but bottom cameras in the summer. Well, then that didn't pan out because it was all hemlocks. There wasn't any other food because the hemlocks were covering it, and it wasn't that good. So, like, there's so many you learn so much through, but the cuts are hard to.
And even with a clear cut, I mean, it could be kind of overgrown to where they're underneath there in the shade anyways, or then in the morning you get a dude or eating some plants. It's like I've been in like goldenrod fields, and you see deer laying in a goldenrod field, but you crawl in that hole, it's wet and damp, and the sunlight doesn't come through, and it's cool just being down in there. You're looking at the sun beating down on you, but they're shorter than you. They're kind of low to the ground, and they'll crawl through them tunnels. It's nice and cool and shaded and stuff like that. So it's.
Throwing something a little bit different here is we were talking about hemlocks and them, not being in there, but the same that all depends on the situation. We're talking about like solid hemlocks stuff. Like if I can find an area that has hemlocks on the area of like an edge of a new cut, a lot of times I'll bed in there because of that shade.
Every time.
How about today? You came to my house and I got this doe that lives around my house, and any day that thermometer goes above 80 degrees, she's in a certain bed. Literally, she watches me. I can see her. She doesn't think I can see her. But I open my truck door and I walk to my porch, and she's only about 20 yards off my yard, laying in this bed in the hemlocks because it's cooler.
She thinks she's a ninja?
Now. Yeah, she does. Except for when Johnny showed up, he starts talking real loud. Then she stood up. But other than that, she doesn't move around.
You know why? Because it's her not. I had to take a sip of beer, Beau.
Pull up that microphone.
And that's just like says something about deer. They can sense something different.
They know when a real predator's in the area.
Oh, I knew that was coming as soon as that came up.
She, as soon as I pulled in, and as soon as I opened the door, she caught a glimpse of me. She's gone. Oh man, she was gone. But
she
hangs
stories
around.
about Johnny Stewart in the deer community.
She's in Beau's yard, walking around, and I show up, she's gone.
Beau was walking with her one time when you showed up.
But that just shows you how deer are. Like, she's comfortable with Beau and his surroundings and living near him. And honestly, it's not funny.
Yeah,
no,
trying
to get
some.
That was hilarious.
But when something different shows up, it peaks like, oh, this ain't right. This ain't normal. This is where I'm going to leave because I'm not used to this. And just deer in general, how like when hunters, throughout the summer, they do their normal thing. The deer do their normal thing. Then hunters start showing up, car door slamming, like, oh, this ain't right. I'm out of here.
Yeah, I actually, I was telling Steve today I was friends with Charlie Alsheimer. And I believe this could have been I read it. I get confused now because I hung out with the guy a bunch of times, and I don't remember if he told me this or I read this in one of his books. But one of the things I found was really interesting, I'll remember the story anyway, was a guy was trying to get some deer off of his property. So he let a hunter come in and hunt the property. And the hunter told him, or the farmer told him where he saw the deer and where they'd show up on his like feed piles and salt licks and stuff like that. So the hunter went out there to hunt, and the farmer stayed inside that day, and none of the deer showed up. And he hunted there a few times. And a very long story short, he wasn't seeing any deer. So the hunter was like, I don't know. So next week he goes back to work, and the farmer says he's seeing deer every day. Couldn't figure it out. So the hunter comes back out there, wasn't seeing the deer. So the hunter said, wait a second, come out here and do your farm chores like you normally do as the sun's going down. And as soon as that guy went out there, then the deer came out.
Wow. Recognized.
So those deer had been watching him do work for 40 years there.
Yeah.
And thought, when that guy's around,
That's an old deer, 40 years old.
Well, that
I know,
herd.
I'm just joking.
So yeah, 40. I think it was 40 years. 40 years
But
deer.
like
Definitely didn't have any teeth on it.
No.
I grew up below Pittsburgh, and we got into hunting the suburbs and hunting close to, and that tells you a lot about hunting them areas. How they're not afraid of like the homeowner and his dog in a yard, you know what I mean? But soon as you sneak through the woods, they could sense the difference between a predator, even though the human could be, like that one's not a predator, that one's not, this one is. But you learn a lot, they just something out of the ordinary. Just
You told me this story. Johnny told me this. He showed up and he took the guy who owned the house, went into his closet and took some of his clothes. And went out there dressed like the guy. He just was carrying a bow, and then he shot the deer.
just like that. I
would not put that.
I don't know whether to say that's true or not.
So listen, I do got a good story about hunting the suburbs. So I was hunting behind this little wooded patch, and my buddy was a police officer there, and I told him, I said, there was a vacant house for sale. I said, I'm parking in that driveway, and I'm hunting behind that house. Like I told him. He's like, all right. You know what I mean? So if you see my vehicle, I'm hunting up in the woods. So there's a little strip of timber, oaks, and maybe an acre. So I went up into them oaks, and then there was houses above that, and the guy had a big backyard, and he blew the leaves off his yard with a blower into the woods. So the leaf litter in the woods was real thick. So before dark, there was like a little thick power line. These does would come out and they'd feed through that leaf litter. And and it was pretty wild. The guy would get home at 5 o'clock, let the dog out, run down in the yard, and the dog would like run down in the woods. I'm up in a tree. And then soon as the dog went in, the guy and the dog went in the house before dark, then all the deer come out. So they had to wait. They knew he would get home, let the dog out. Then they didn't want to be harassed by that dog. So the does would come out of this thick stuff, and they would feed around me in these acorns in this leaf litter that he blew off his yard. Well, the buck, he'd come out. He would actually walk through the yard because he didn't want to walk through all them noisy leaves. And he'd come down, and then he got in the woods. So I shot him, and then actually 2 years later, the same scenario. Like I didn't hunt there. 2 years go by, I get up in that tree. I think I went and scouted, it was before cameras, and I seen there was a good deer living there. So I get up in a tree. This is 2 years later. The guy come home from work, let his dog out, and come down in the woods, pissed, went back in to the house. Hear all the doe come out. Here come a different buck. 2 years later, he did the same thing.
Spot.
Stood on top of the hill on that thick stuff, and like the two houses, their backyards join, and they all cleaned the leaves. He blew them in the woods, and that buck didn't. He walked right down through the grass, and then he cut in the woods. Like he did 2 years later, another mature buck did the same thing that one did the year before.
It.
But
I believe
they
that.
come out right after the dude let his dog piss, and they went in and then. So, but it was pretty wild how they adapt to how the people live, and if something's out of ordinary, they're just like, oh, I'm not dealing with that.
So I got another question. So in areas that you can't run minerals, what are your guys' strategy? Let's start with you, Steve, with like your cameras, or even if you can, but you choose not to. What are you looking for that?
I mean, I would probably just go with the licking branches. Just because, I mean, I feel like you can get pictures of deer pretty easily almost anywhere. Like, it's the quality of pictures what you get, like when you can get a deer to pause for a while. Like, that's especially like wanting to see how big these bucks are, or what they grew into. Like, if they're just walking by broadside, it's like, it's just tough to tell. But when he's either at that mineral site or working that branch, and you get 5-10 photos at least every time.
Yeah,
and that's what I would say is go with licking branches, or unless you can set up on water or water holes, that would probably be.
Where are you putting those licking branches?
Where do I put them?
Yeah, like what types of areas? I guess
I put a lot of them in the same places I would put like the mineral sites, except I look at it like if I feel that it's it's kind of like a gray area, how there's really nothing in the Pennsylvania rule book that says you can be so many feet from a mineral site.
Yep.
But if I feel that, okay, I may hunt this given area, I'll do licking branches versus because I really don't know what's legal or it doesn't really say. It just says you can't like hunt any trail or any route to and from. So I'll just play it safe, But I put them in the same places, like I said, where I think I might even hunt, next fall. It's a good way to just monitor the area year round.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And before I go to Johnny, I'll just comment as I'm thinking about it. So, like, I have two different strategies with, like, the mock scrapes in the summer. I'll either have ones that are just for summertime photos that I'll try to be getting those. And then I also have the ones where I don't have the time to get back to that camera that I'll set up in a fall type location, but still get that licking branch freshened up, do all of that. Maybe I'll get surprised and there'll be some summertime photos that come through there. And maybe it's set up for, later on. But a lot of times, like you said, depending on the area, those do cross over pretty much.
Mm-hmm. And
go ahead.
Not to interrupt you, I was going to say one thing you brought up that's a good point is like, even though they're attracted to licking branches this time of year, like, if you leave it up for months versus a mineral site, you might have 30,000 pictures or your SD card, batteries, whatever, can be maxed out.
Yeah, you can't leave those up for 3 months.
No, but if you do a licking branch, you're going to get a lot of pictures, but probably 1,000 or 2 in the big woods at the most for summer. So that would be a good point too. Like if you don't have the time to check your camera as much, go with more licking branches.
That is a very, very good point. Otherwise, your batteries will be dead.
Yeah.
You'll get to it on July 2nd. Your camera SD card's full and your batteries are dead.
Yeah, exactly.
I also feel like that might be your best chance at getting a mature buck on there if he's not patterned to those licking branches or to those mineral sites.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Eventually, your scent will be out of that licking branch area, and they're going to want to know what other deer are in that area, so they're going to hit
Great
that thing.
point.
Looks way more natural.
Way more natural.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny?
Well, one thing about what you guys were saying about getting all the pictures, I try to, if I do, I don't believe I'm going to check my mineral licks. If I put them out March, April, and I usually put on like a 5-minute delay with a 2-second,
I can understand
where it goes.
that. Yeah.
Takes one picture, then 1,001, it takes another picture. So you don't just get that one flash, but you'll get, and then what's good about, like Steve said, a mineral lick, you can kind of get a head-on shot to where a lot of times you can get a picture. If you get I hate broadside pictures of deer because you can't judge. Right. So like even going through the hunt season I try to guess which way the deer's. I don't like looking right down the trail or per se which way the deer's, because then you only have a 5-foot wide area. I try to kind of like get them on like a 45. So if I think he's coming, say he's going south to north, I'll put it like in the northwest or to kind of just like you can kind of cover more area, not just a straight up and down. And then I hate the broadside shots because a lot of times you won't even get a trigger.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You'll see,
too.
And I've seen it where you get tracks, whether it be in a mud or that or snow, and it's like you don't got no picture. So you don't always. I don't care how good them cameras are. You can't always get it. Believe that you're going to get everything that walks in front of it.
I can't tell you how many like huge body I've got like from shoulder back.
I hate that.
Oh my God.
And what's worse is when you can't find the tree for the right scrape or licking branch.
Yeah.
Like you're like, I need it here, and then
I've walked around for 10 minutes.
And I always try
with a camera in my hand.
I try to face my cameras north to south so I don't get as many east to west sun.
You're
good
false. Activations essentially.
Yep.
But that can be difficult. If you watch me set cameras up, just like me picking a tree, it's like I'm like standing around, like what am I doing? Like you'd think it's my first time in the woods. Like
I know I'm the same way, Bo. It's like you're trying to find the perfect spot, like where exactly. If you knew everything, you would kill the deer.
Yeah. Well, also you don't want to have to be doing that when you're coming in at 04:30. Right, and you're looking around for that tree, like, okay, which one am I going to choose now? Like, you want to have all of that I'll put the notes into my waypoint.
Yeah,
that's a good
idea. Oh,
This
yeah.
is what I do when I come
take
to
a
this
picture
spot.
of the tree that I plan on if I was hanging hunting. Like if I had the tree, I put any notes to it which way I'm going to face, because I've been there where I'd be like, this is a good spot. I'll figure that out. And you come in there in the dark and everything looks so different and you're like, dang it.
Yeah, and if it's one of those car hood scrapes, like a really big scrape or something like that, I'll pop up in the tree and then really get a good look at like the whole area.
Yeah.
So if I have an idea where they're coming through, or if something needs to be, you can't cut trees down, but a lot of things that I'll do is I'll move like a rock against a small tree to just get it out of a shot lane.
Yeah.
Like if I'm on a public, piece of land where you're not allowed to cut things down, I'll use like rocks or other branches, or just like I've even done it where I braid the branches.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and the ones that are like flexible type.
Right, just so they're out of the way for a shot lane or something, because that's even worse, right? You
yeah.
do all of your homework, you get everything right, and then you're sitting up in the tree, and your shot lane has been blocked, or something has grown in there, or whatever.
Yep.
Half the time you get up in there and you have your lanes, and he doesn't even show up in there. He's over here,
Totally
and he's
different.
like, you're like, whoa, where'd you come from?
Johnny? What about your do you run any cameras in the summer that's not on mineral licks?
Yeah, I mean, definitely browse. The more variety you have, which is like where the sunlight, very a clear cut, and maybe an inside corner, to where that's where he's going to enter.
Speak on that inside corner a little bit, because I think that's a very good point. That if you're not, describe that a little bit more, what you're talking about.
Well, it's like maybe you got some hardwoods or hemlocks that run north and south. Maybe a defined line between the hemlocks and the clear cut, and then maybe the cutting that we're talking about is like a square.
Yep.
So you're in the corner to where the hemlocks are north and south, and then it runs east and west.
Yep.
Because if a deer comes to that corner, maybe he's going to scan that clear cut for danger or something, or vice versa, one or the other, whether he's going in it, but he has some cover and he's going to work at edge
And field of view.
And field of view, yeah.
Right.
So, but if he comes out in that corner and he needs to retreat back into the hemlocks or whatever it might be, he could go right or left and be, you got a couple more options. But definitely a place like that, I think, I actually have a camera and a cutting that I put out actually when we pushed your deer. The first push.
Yep.
Your dad was on the one, I was on the other hill, and I dropped the camera there, and I got to go get that one. It's down on the inside corner. I'm going to try to get it this year. But anyway.
We've talked about it before, but I don't know if I told you this, Steve, but the first time that Johnny ever picked up that deer that I ended up killing was in 2017, I think. You dropped a camera, and he forgot it was there, and he was out scouting a year later and came across it, and he pulled it, and he didn't have an SD card reader on him, so he brought it to my house, and we put it in my parents' house. Yeah. We put it in my dad's computer, and that buck was on there from the year before.
That was 16 and 17. I put it out in 16.
Yep.
I rifle hunted, and I dropped it, and I didn't get it till 17, and then I think the following year, I picked that deer up, and I put a post on Instagram, and I sent it to Beau, like after he got that deer. I sent it to him, and it was a picture of his deer the previous year.
Wow.
And I wrote on there, I know where this deer lives. All I need is someone with a tag, and I'll push it to him. And I sent it to him.
Yeah, he literally had it, yeah.
And
I know where he lives at this time of year, because it was like a rifle season photo, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
You are insane.
And I went back in Instagram, and I looked back, and it was 17, and I sent it to Beau. I'm like, Beau, look what I wrote. I'm like, I have
And Beau's
this deer.
like,
I
look at
know.
my comment down there. I responded.
Yeah.
He might have.
actually did
I think he
respond. I was
did.
like, wow, that's an awesome buck.
Wow.
And I think, we couldn't get together that year. And then fast forward a year, and it happened. 3 years. So,
That's
but
crazy.
that was pretty awesome. But yeah, definitely an inside corner, browse, diverse, maybe a creek bottom, creek crossing.
That reminds me, I was hunting this huge buck in southern Maryland, and it was a 12-pointer that year. It was a massive deer, and I'd never seen him on the hoof, never had a daytime picture of him, nothing. And my father-in-law was in town. We were going to a Redskins game, and I had just gotten access to this it was public property, but I'd gotten access through a private lot to just access the public property, so I could get quicker to get into this public piece. And I was showing my father-in-law as we were driving to the game where it was, and I said, "Yeah, I've been seeing this massive buck on here at night, 12-pointer, just amazing buck, but he does not come out during the day." And he looks to the left and he goes, "Is it that buck over there chasing a doe through this guy's backyard?" And sure as anything else, this buck pops out of an inside corner and is chasing a doe. And we're getting ready to go to a Redskins game. It's like 27 November.
Jeez.
And I'm like, what? The one night I'm not out here hunting, like I've been hunting hard there, right? He probably knew I wasn't there, which is why he was out in the middle of that field. But again, it's just like, missed opportunities.
Yeah.
And inside corners, right? It's just killing me. I never did kill that deer. He ended up getting hit by a car.
Oh,
it's awful.
That's a shame.
While I was in Afghanistan, insult to injury.
Wow.
Yeah.
It happens. Well, it's summertime. We're excited getting cameras out and doing a little bit of scouting in the woods here. I'm looking forward to this fall as always.
I'm already jonesing.
Yeah.
I was telling Steve today, like, I hunt until April.
Yeah.
Because, Taylor Chamberlain, you just did a podcast with him.
Yeah.
I listened to. It's hilarious. Taylor's hilarious.
Yeah.
But we were hunting together, in Virginia where you can hunt. Well, I think he can hunt into May.
He can hunt 365.
Yeah. And I was hunting with him in April. And I guess most of the reason I bring on guys to the pro staff that I bring on is it's like two criteria. A, are you a public land hunter? And B, can you have a 3-hour conversation about deer in February?
Yeah.
And like that is like when those two things are satisfied, right? Then I try to bring them on, and Taylor, Johnny, Andy, all of those guys, Garrett, Greg, all of them, 3-hour conversations late into the year, and it's like 3 days I'm tired of hunting, and then I'm ready to get back at it. And it's just, as I was out there today, it's the same thing. I can't wait for the next season to start.
Yeah. And me and Beau were talking on the way up here, different states to hunt, and your windows aren't huge as far as when the deer might be on a hoof, and your best chance to see them. Usually everybody wants to hunt November, because not too many people are going to take a trip to a different state for, just one evening or morning hunt. If you want to get out there in November, and there are many talking about public hunting. I mean, there's so many states that have good public hunting opportunities that hold good deer that, I get stuck in a couple states because I get to know them areas and I can't get out of them even though it's, even though I want to, I'm stuck. I want to kill the deer there before I move on. But they're just in general, I mean, you look on Instagram, there's good deer on public land, in a lot of states, a lot of opportunities. Sure. It's pretty.
But as
we're lucky
we talking,
to have it.
it's like it's so hard to leave Pennsildania sometimes.
Yeah, you get maybe where you want to be for that week, and then boom, it's here and gone, and that's maybe where you want to be in another state. So you got to, that's why I do a lot of late season hunting because there's some opportunities there. But there are many states that have a lot of potential for a good.
I turned down a swap for PA to Kansas this year. So if people seriously did. So, and actually the guy I was all booked up for this year, but he booked for 2022 and I still didn't. I said, nope, I'm just a PA boy.
Yeah.
So I put in so much time here. It's like, I don't want to just put the time in and then once the season comes, not then be able to go to work again,
And it's a wormhole. You'll never know enough. You could stay here till the day you die and hunt here and learn here. You know,
absolutely,
learn every time.
Every time.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, thanks guys for coming on again. This is a good round table here with 3 decent guys, I guess, and
in the loosest terms,
yeah,
decent.
No, thanks, Steve, for having us to your
Thanks
camp.
so much.
This was amazing, Steve.
Thanks.
I had a great time.
And thank you, Beau, for the caribou.
Yeah,
That was excellent.
Amazing.
No problem.
Good stuff, guys.
Johnny, thanks for being here.
Thanks for the chips you never brought out of the
I'm
car.
just kidding.
I got him.
We're like pounding on you, Johnny. You gotta.
Sorry, I could take it. I got
I
some
know.
thick skin.
Hey, he's all right.
I'll give it out.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, and Steve at Sherk's Guide Service. You can find that Facebook, Instagram, anywhere really.
Yep.
We got Bill over at Spartan Forge. We got Johnny at the Johnny Stewart on Instagram. And all right, thanks for listening.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of East Meets West Hunt with your host, Beau Martonik. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit eastmeetswesthunt.com, Facebook at East Meets West Outdoors, and Instagram at East Meets West Hunt. If you enjoyed today's episode, please review and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.